And we kick off this evening with a look at the cinema.
I'm not a complicated man. I like cinema.
It's beautiful, beautiful cinema.
Cinema history come to life.
I found my solace in the small cinema I went to every Thursday night.
I'm a professor of cinema.
I go to the cinema for the stories.
There was no competition between the cinema and seminar.
I mean, it's not within the realm of conventional cinema.
And now,
here's Payson Johnson
with a cinema review.
It is Monday, June 17th, 8 EST, and thank you for joining me for another exciting episode of Cinemaster's Reviews. This week, I'm going to be reviewing the biggest release of the weekend, as well as, I believe, the biggest release of 2024 so far, Inside Out 2, the sequel to Inside Out, as well as catching up on the biggest release of last week, because I didn't have an episode last week, Bad Boys Ride or Die, the fourth installment in the Bad Boys franchise. I said we start right off with the movie that opened this week, that being Inside Out 2, the hit to the sequel to the hit 2015 Pixar film. That one directed by Pete Docter. This one directed by a new filmmaker for Pixar, Kelsey Mann. This one takes place 2 years after Inside Out, and Riley is now 13 years old. And the emotions that we got to know and love in the original film are going pretty good with how they are now handling Riley. Joy and the rest of the emotions learn that it's okay to mix emotions. It's okay for Riley to view things as both a happy and a sad emotion, maybe as an angry and a scary moment. And Joy has once again taken the role of the leader of the emotion console during this pivotal moment in Riley's life. Riley's going to be starting high school next year, and she is going to be going to a hockey camp with some of her friends. All the while, inside of her head, it seems like the puberty button that was teased at the end of Inside Out, that button goes off, and suddenly new emotions begin to introduce themselves, that being emotions such as anxiety, embarrassment, envy, and boredom. One of the emotions, anxiety, eventually decides that she believes that Riley's whole mantra of wanting to be a good person is not how she believes that Riley should be going. So she ends up kicking the original emotions out and is now up to joy, sadness, fear, anger, and disgust to venture back to the emotion tower in order to essentially save Riley or get her on the correct path. When I first heard that Pixar was going to be doing this sequel, I'll just start out by saying how I view most Pixar sequels, and that is not the highest, minus the Toy Story movies, of course. I think Toy Story is easily Pixar's best franchise. It seems every time Pixar has tried to do a sequel that isn't Toy Story, it ends up coming up a little bit short. I admittedly haven't seen Monsters University. Finding Dory was just a sequel I didn't think really needed to exist. I think Finding Nemo is a pretty complete story, and it felt weird to return to those characters 10 years later. Incredibles 2 is a movie that I thought I wanted, and it is a movie that I did end up really enjoying, but it doesn't reach the highs of that first Incredibles, which to me is the best Pixar movie. But when I heard that they were making Inside Out 2, part of me did think, man, most Pixar sequels do kind of disappoint me, but another part of me thought, you know, if there was one movie I could really see a sequel benefiting, it would be Inside Out, because we could see how Riley's emotions change as she become older. Maybe new emotions do come in, as we see in this movie. So I was cautiously optimistic about this movie, and I gotta say, I ended up really, really enjoying Inside Out 2, and I think it mostly sticks the landing, even though I don't think it quite hits the top tier of a lot of Pixar movies. The first thing I want to say about this movie is I think it was a great idea to have just a 2-year time jump for Riley, and that she's like just on the verge of going into high school, and we're not jumping so far in the future where we're seeing her in high school or even in college now. I think this is a really fun age to delve into, like, the mind of a child in the way of, like, when they're just starting to feel like nervous about themselves, when they're just starting to like have like this form of like, oh, I want to be that person. Because like one of the themes of this movie is when Riley goes to this hockey camp, there's a veteran hockey player who's a senior at the school that Riley wants to emulate in every element of her life. And one of the new emotions, envy, voiced by Ayoade Devery, who you've probably seen in The Bear, where she plays Sid in The Bear and many other things, who is excellent, by the way. You understand why that emotion is there. And many of the other emotions, whether it's anxiety, which is like, I started dealing with anxiety probably around that age where I really started feeling like nervous about my life. Embarrassment, that's obviously one of the new emotions. And I just think this is a really great idea to set the story at this point where she's 13. Even though the character of Joy grew from the last film, if you remember the last film, Joy, voiced by Amy Poehler, she was someone who originally like really felt like, there's only room for like one emotion per memory. And by the end of the film, she's like, no, it's okay to be happy and sad at the same time. And even though she did grow, the character of Joy is still kind of flawed, where she believes that Riley has to have the core value of Riley believes she's a good person and she cannot deviate from that at all. And really the only memories that Riley likes to keep that Joy likes to keep for Riley are the ones that are good. And I don't want to spoil how that goes throughout the movie, but by the end of the movie, that kind of changes. And I like where our characters are from, are now. And you see the early threads of, okay, how can these characters grow throughout the journey and the stages of this film. Once again, Amy Poehler, like I said, she voices Joy. Phyllis Smith voices Sadness, and Lewis Black voices Anger. They are the returning voice actors from the previous film. Once again, did a phenomenal job. One of the things I really loved about Inside Out was how great they got the voices of all the emotions. And yeah, they're once again excellent. Lewis Black in particular, I think, is even better this time, mainly because like one of the major things I think about this movie, if I could just go on like go slightly on topic, even though it's not a topic, I do think this movie is a bit more joke heavy than the first Inside Out. You can really tell that the writer of this movie came from a comedy background, really trying to let all the emotions have their like jokey moments, have their humorous moments. And Lewis Black, who played Anger, who was kind of like the main comedic relief in the first film, he's given so much to do in this film. Casting a comedian like Lewis Black to play Anger is kind of perfect already, and he's just given even more to rip off in this movie, and I really, really did love that. And then yeah, like I said, like Phyllis Smith, I think she kind of stole the show last time as the character of Sadness. She obviously isn't like in the main focus of this movie like she was in the last movie. Like obviously in that last movie was just joy and sadness on this adventure. This time it's going to be all 5 emotions going through Riley's brain. But the character of Sadness does still have a pretty important element to play in this movie, but I can't really get into that without spoilers. Liza Lapra and Tony Hale, they are the voice actors for Disgust and Fear, respectively. They are replacing Mindy Kaling and Bill Hader from the last movie who voiced those characters. And while they are both good, specifically Tony Hale, I think he does a very good job as Fear. I think one of the issues is you can definitely tell that these are new people voicing those characters, which does kind of suck because like I think Bill Hader was so perfect as the character of Fear, as like this manic, like jumpy character in the first movie. And while Tony Hale is definitely good, you can tell that it's just not Bill Hader and doesn't really feel the same. So that was a bit of a negative for me there. I'm still not sure why they didn't get Bill Hader and Mindy Kaling to come back, but it was a little bit disappointing. But let's talk about the new characters. All the new emotions I think are really great, specifically anxiety and envy. Just to talk about Envy, I think she's just a really fun character, really cute character. Ayoade Devery is like, her voice seems like born for voice acting because she has such a distinct like, oh hi, this is so cool, man. It's really cool that we're doing this for Riley. She's gonna be the greatest player on the hockey team, and like every line she says, she's super funny. I heard that she was able to workshop a lot of her lines because Ayoade Devery comes from a comedic writing background, and I can tell that really probably benefited this movie a lot. But the person that steals the movie easily is Maya Hawke as Anxiety. If you've seen the trailer, I just think the design of this character, whether it's having all the little hairs coming out of her head, whether it's that big smile as the movie starts going on, she begins moving even more manically, moving more chaotically, and I think it just helps capture that like anxious feeling that all of us start going through when we are younger. And without this isn't really a spoiler if you've seen the trailers. Anxiety does kind of play the villain role because she essentially wants to take Joy's role of being the main emotion, and as the movie starts going on, she wants to create a new form of Riley, or just like a new personality for Riley that really just wants to be like the best hockey player on the team, only wants to fit in with the popular people, and just has like this really like self-conscious look on life. And even though she's poised as the villain of the movie, with her being like this like embodiment of anxiety, you do understand where she's coming from, and I think the movie does a really good job at handling the relationship between anxiety and Joy as the movie begins, as the movie keeps going on. I really loved where Riley goes with her friends. It kind of sucks to see, but Riley's not the best, like, is not the greatest friend to the people that she's grown up with throughout the movie, which unfortunately I think kind of happens as you do begin to get older. When Riley goes to this hockey camp, she's befriended by some of the more like popular hockey, by some of the older players on the team, and you see she like kind of has like this decision making thing to make of like, do I want to be friends with these people that are super popular and really great on the team that are befriending me, but I also want to still be friends with the people that have supported me throughout my entire life and have always been there for me, and like that constant struggle she has. And I think the movie, like the first one, just has a really great like outlook on like what it means to be like a young person, what it means to like deal with all these like psychological issues, but bringing it down to a way that like anyone can enjoy, like even like young kids can enjoy this. And Pixar is always great at that, and I think this movie does a really great job at doing that as well. The ideas that this movie does with the emotions and the brain are once again excellent. Like when I think about that first movie, once again, like that first movie had like the whole stream of consciousness scene where it's like on like a little moat, and it's literally like a stream of Riley's consciousness. The first movie had like the subconscious, which is like this big dark pit that like if you don't get out of, you're gonna be forgotten. This movie has a lot of great, like still has so many like creative and like inventive ideas of how it deals with like the human mind and memories and emotions. If you saw the trailer, you know that there's a literal chasm in this movie, that when you say something, it comes off as sarcastic because it's like a sarcasm. That scene is excellent. There's something involving a brainstorm in this movie, which I really, really don't want to spoil, but that is excellent. Like, I think the writers and the creators of these movies in particular, everyone at Pixar seems to be really creative, but like the people that make the Inside Out movies are so creative, and there are so many ideas on screen that I think it's really, really excellent. If I could just like hit some of the major issues I had with this movie, and why I don't consider it like top tier Pixar. Like I said, some of the voice actors don't return, but sometimes there's just nothing you can do there. One of the things I will say is that with this movie being so joke centric and so like, oh, we gotta put humor here, we gotta put humor here, we gotta put humor here, it kind of misses the, like, pun kind of intended, the emotional backbone that the first movie has. Like, I don't think this movie really has like its bing bong moment, or it doesn't have its Joy realizing the importance of sadness moment. And part of me thinks that it seems like the movie was just trying to put in so many jokes and so many different like ideas into it that it never stopped to like slow down to be like, all right, we should really, really make you like invested in an emotional way, like that first movie did. Like there's really no like tear jerking moments in this movie like that first movie had, which is a little disappointing. And just another one of the major misses is Michael Giacchino did not return to do the score for this movie, and you can definitely tell because the score of this film is like just does not reach the highs of that original score. There are certain parts where it plays like a motif or maybe like a little bit of that original score, but it just makes you want to go listen to that original music, which is just a little disappointing. But those are really my only complaints. Like throughout, like honestly, like I love these new characters. I love where our characters go. I think it leaves Riley in a really fun spot. Like if they want to do an Inside Out 3, like what that's gonna look when Riley goes to high school. It's a Pixar movie, so this should go without saying. But the animation is gorgeous, like all and all the different designs of the different like things with the brain, I think is really really cool. There's one character in this movie and I don't want to spoil too much of it, but it is we learned that Riley had a crush on an old video game character from a video game she used to play as a kid, and that character is designed like a PlayStation 2 character, and I absolutely loved it. But yeah, if I were to rate this movie, here at Cinemasters Reviews, we rate movies on a scale of 0 to 10 videotapes, 0 being awful, 10 being astounding. If I were to rate this movie on a scale of 0 to 10, I think I'm gonna give it a really solid 8.5 out of 10 videotapes. I don't think it's as good as the first Inside Out, but man, I just love these characters. I love this cast. Maya Hawke was killing it in this role, probably the voice acting performance of the year so far, and just all the different ideas and creative elements of this movie. I really, really do love. And if you have young kids, or even if you don't, I think Pixar is really great, just making movies for all ages. And this is another excellent movie that anyone can enjoy. So yeah. If you have the time, please go see this in the theater because it is excellent. Comment from Andrew Barr. Woo, Cinemaster. Thanks, man. Hey, everyone, go watch Like 500 Takes. It's a great show. Andrew Barr, Brooklyn Vale, and Cody Newberry are made a list of what they consider the top 500 greatest songs of all time. Really entertaining show, and I would love for you all to go check it out. But we're not here to talk about music. We're here to talk about movies. And the second movie we are going to be reviewing tonight is Bad Boys Ride or Die. This is the fourth film in the Bad Boys franchise. The second film directed by Adil and Bilal. I really hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Once again, we are following the characters of Mike Lowry and Marcus Burnett, played by Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. Once again, like from that third movie, these characters are starting to get a little older, starting to feel that age, but they're still going to be wisecracking cops like they've always been. And it opens with the character of Mike Lowry on the verge of getting married. Marcus Burnett is kind of going through some health issues, but the major conflict comes from Conrad Howard, who was played by Joe Pantoliano in the first three Bad Boys movies. He died in the third movie, and it seemed like he may have been involved in some shady crimes that he was trying to keep secret, and Mike and Marcus do not believe it, and they are setting out on a mission to clear his name. Now that is the bare bones description of this plot. There are a lot of other elements, like once again we deal with Mike's son Armando, which we were introduced in the first film. His like strenuous relationship with him. Marcus is dealing, like I said, with health issues. Early on in the movie, he actually gets shot. And no, he does not get shot. He has a heart attack at Mike's wedding, and he kind of has an epiphany of he might be invincible, and him and Marcus and him and Mike might actually be like soulmates in a weird way, not in like a romantic sense, but just in a partner sense. There are a lot of things going on in this movie, but if I were to be honest, I think the weakest element of this movie does happen to be the plot and the script. I don't really think it has like that original bone in its body, even though it is throwing a ton of ideas and they do seem original for this franchise. I do think the script was probably the weakest element. There is a character that we are introduced in the first act of this movie that we know the second we see who this character is and the relationship they have with another character and the actor that is playing this character, you know immediately that this is going to be someone that is going to be portraying the heroes in the third act. And that is just so telegraphed that it ended up becoming annoying. Like I said, Martin Lawrence, who, by the way, is amazing in this movie. Like, this is the best performance, I think, that Martin Lawrence has given throughout this entire franchise. He is spectacular in the movie, but the whole bit of him being, like, immortal and, like, walking out into the highway and getting, like, cars almost hitting him, Mike trying to protect him, it is a funny joke, but it doesn't really have like a payoff. So like part of me is like, okay, why was this really there? Except just to like keep the audience entertained, which at the end of the day, this is a Bad Boys movie. I don't want to think too hard about it, but that was a little like, if you're gonna add something like that, I think you gotta I think you gotta add elements. what am I saying? If you're gonna add something like that, it does make you ask like, okay, what's the payoff gonna be? What's the payoff gonna be? And I think that was just a little odd. There was like zero payoff. Many characters returned from Bad Boys for Life, such as Paolo Nunez, who plays Rita, who had like a sort of flirtatious relationship with Mike in the original movie. They are not together in this movie. That was not the person that she married. Vanessa Hudgens and Alexander Ludwig come back as the ammo representatives. Kelly and Dorn, those characters go in a place you can probably expect where they're going to go, but nothing to complain about too much there. So yeah, these returning characters are there, not given a ton to do. You are really here just to see Will Smith and Martin Lawrence just have fun and vibe off each other, and man, the chemistry is still there. Will Smith, Mike in particular is really getting to the point of like, I am getting too old. Like I'm married now. I'm settled down. Like I want to get out of this business. But as the mystery keeps unfolding, he believed in Conrad Howard. So he believed in Conrad so much that he ends up getting his fire back and ends up getting the passion that he needs in order to solve this case. Another reason why I did enjoy this movie is because I do think the relationship between Mike and Armando, while it's not as good as the relationship in the third movie, it is fun to see how this relationship develops. And you keep asking yourself, is Armando going to, because essentially what happens is Mike and Marcus end up in this place where no one trusts them. They can really only go to Mike's son, who, while he was a bad guy, he knows that Conrad was never involved with him. So they end up teaming up. And I think that is a really, really fun element of seeing Mike be like, can I trust my son? Can I give my son a second chance? I want to give him a second chance. And yeah, I just think that angle of the movie was really fun. We meet Conrad's daughter, who's played by Rhea Seehorn, who played Kim in Better Call Saul. This character is just completely wasted, didn't really have any real purpose to be there, except to give us like one other like secondary villain who we didn't really need to like track down Mike and Marcus when they do go rogue. And the reason I say we don't really need them is because Rita, played by Paolo Nunez, kind of serves that role in this movie. Like when Mike and Marcus essentially go away from the law, she's the one that's like, no, I'm sorry, I gotta chase them down. So like with that character, we really didn't need Rhea Seehorn to be here. She's a great actress, just completely checked out of this movie. So that was a little frustrating watching this film. Just other elements of this movie that I just want to talk about. Another returning character, Reggie. Reggie's a very fun character because you meet him in Bad Boys 2. You meet him when he's about to take Marcus's daughter on a date, and Marcus and Mike just like berate him in a really funny way. We learn in Bad Boys 3 that he ended up marrying Marcus's daughter, and they have a kid. And now we learn that Reggie is a Marine. He is back in the country, just essentially in between tours. And there is an action scene in this movie where Marcus's house is getting invaded, and Marcus is not there, and Reggie is the only one that can defend the house. I swear, I saw this movie in a packed theater. The audience was going nuts when Reggie had his action scene, and it was excellent. And speaking of the action in this movie, I want to say like one of the minus Will Smith and Martin Lawrence chemistry, which is of course always there. The direction by Adil and Bilal is absolutely incredible. Like this is some of the best action I've seen in a major blockbuster in a while. Like I think they only got better at directing action from Bad Boys for Life. There are phenomenal like first person action scenes where like the camera is on Will Smith's hand and you can see it like from the gun's perspective. It feels like real violent, like visceral action that you want to see from an R-rated movie. Of course, those original two movies were directed by Michael Bay. He directed the heck out of those, and just seeing both these directors like carry on in that tradition, but also not like look like a Michael Bay movie, I think it's just a ton of fun. And every single major action scene, like there's one on a highway. There are quite a few in like close quarters buildings. The third act of this movie taking place in like the swamps of the swamps of Colombia, I think is super, super fun. And you can tell that these guys know how to film action in a really fun way. So yeah, this is kind of a tricky movie to talk about because like, while I think the script is kind of weak, and while there's just a lot of holes, and like while I'm watching the movie and I'm like, okay, this could have been done a little better, this could have been done a little better. One of the things I will say, I did like. Not only did Mike does Mike have a solid like dynamic with his son in this movie, Mike is dealing with like PTSD of like thinking of like, was I the one that is responsible for Conrad's death? And I think that element was done pretty well as well. The villain is really just kind of a nothing villain, just like your classic bad guy. But yeah, like I was saying, while there are holes in this movie I can punch through, where this movie shines are the place where I think it counts. It's that chemistry between these characters. It is the really solid action. It is a really great, just like crowd pleaser movie. And I genuinely had a blast while watching this movie. So while I can't call it that great of a film, I definitely had fun while watching this. So if I were to rate this movie on a scale of 0 to 10 videotapes, I think I'm going to give it an enthusiastic 6.5. So like that's a decent rating. I can't call it good per se because there are just too many issues. But if you just want a solid, fun shoot 'em up action movie or action comedy, I think Bad Boys Ride or Die is the movie for you. If you're a fan of this franchise, I think you're definitely going to enjoy it. I don't like it as much as Bad Boys or Bad Boys for Life, but I do like it more than Bad Boys 2. If you have the time, I would really recommend seeing this movie in theaters. But yeah, like the second this comes out on streaming, I think it's going to be a really fun way to spend 2 hours because I think Adil and Bilal do a really, really great job at handling these characters. But yeah, that does bring us to the end of our show. Thank you so much for watching this video. Remember to like and subscribe to the video so it helps to grow our channel a lot. Next week, I'm going to be reviewing The Bike Riders, Jeff Nichols' new film with Jodie Comer, Austin Butler, and Tom Hardy, as well as The Exorcism, Russell Crowe's new horror movie. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, watch more movies.
And the award for most vapid film review of the century goes to...
Okay, movie review. Okay, I thought it was beauty.
And he's now in cinema hell, where one day we'll all be reunited.
This is me at the Regal Cinema crying as I did through much of the film.